And I just sort of decided that should be a new trend of a vegetable.
Did you in that moment envision from those little small ways that it would end up being on Beyonce's sweatshirt music video, or, you know, Michelle Obama asking Jimmy Fallon for kale chips?
No, I didn't think it would ever be that significant. I mean, I was doing it, you know, just to see what would happen. I didn't ever know on that magnitude how big it would get. It's incredible, and it still blows my mind that a vegetable could be so cool and so trendy and so much more.
Well, welcome back to the Tailored to You podcast. Oberon Sinclair is the CEO and founder of My Young Auntie creative agency, and over the last 20 years, she has collaborated with and managed clients, including Hermes, Vivienne Westwood, Jack Spade, Converse. I mean, can I get some high tops over here? Free People, and so many more. She has been widely regarded and known also as the Queen of Kale. I have vegetable royalty on the podcast. This is the first. She shares how she made this superfood a phenomenon and really her decision-making process when spotting key trends and discovering and then promoting them through iconic campaigns. Oberon shares the brand that she has the fondest memories working with. Maybe a brand you didn't. You'll have to tune in. A night out with Kate Spade, Richard Gere, and Harrison Ford. And then also why she feels like she has been a disruptor in her career. We bond over our curiosity and fascination with people, and that it's really refreshing to always try something new. Oberon really does live her life in a fearless fashion and is absolutely lovely. You'll hear that a couple times in the episode. Now I feel like I'm Australian. Oberon, we do a lot of accents, and I picked up a few words and phrases from her. Ding dong, it's Oberon Sinclair. Our connection, or for those listening, Hannah Travis is one of my longtime friends. Met her at University of Kentucky, and she works with Oberon.
Can we talk about her accent and your accent too?
Oh my gosh, wait, so you think I have an accent?
I do. Well, I think all Americans have an accent, including my daughter. But Hannah's like, you know, next level, because, you know, everything's y'all. So I've started saying y'all. Oh, she's amazing. I love the Southern, it's just so great, her accent. I can't stop.
Well, it's so funny. When I actually went, like I said, I went to Kentucky, but being from Chicago, I would come home and I would say, how are you all doing? I wouldn't say y'all, but everyone's like, oh my gosh, like now you like act like you're from the South, you know? Because I would just say you all.
Charm. You can't escape that.
As we go through this, I have to say, Oberon, if I start speaking like with an English accent, like don't take offense.
No, we might swap accents halfway through this.
Well, I hope so. I'm gonna be saying like, oh bloody hell. But you brought up your daughter Scarlett, and what I found so fascinating too about her accent is that she had a British accent up until she was 5 years old. So now she's
got an American accent, but of course she can do my accent because it used to be her accent.
Was that hard for you? Did you want to keep those London roots and keep her with that British accent, or is it British or English? I feel like I'm not using the proper.
British. You could say
British.
I'm not a snob. It's okay. It's fine. Yeah, it was sweet having her have a British accent, but then, you know, born and raised in New York, so that's where I chose to raise her. Her father and I chose to raise her in New York. But for the first few years of her life, she traveled all over the world. So she could have had any accent actually, because she traveled. We traveled with her father on tours, so she could have had many accents.
Well, I saw too, speaking of her on tour, she was playing the piano in Australia. And I think it was like Dark Side of the Moon tour.
Right.
And
That's right. I know.
That is so wild. What a life she has lived. I mean, being on tour and has that music in her blood.
From me, of course. She gets all her singing talent, musical talent from me. No.
Well, I mean, in part though, you did grow up, you know, you were managing local bands in your bedroom. So in a way, I'd say it attributes to you.
I was more onto the creative business side, but her father's definitely the musical talent in the family. So I'm very proud of her.
I found it so wild that you manage bands, well, like we said, from your bedroom, but also you ended up promoting concerts across Asia.
Nothing in my life has been planned. There was no big plan. It all sort of happened by accident. I'm very, very lucky that it happened that way, but it really was all accidental. You know, I grew up in London, Abbey Road, which is wonderful. My parents' house is still there. And I had my first job at Motown, which was literally a sort of junior's job, doing anything, making tea, getting sandwiches and writing press releases and welcoming bands and just doing any odd job there was to do in the office. And then I got a job working at MTV Europe as a producer, which was, you know, next level up, pretty amazing. It was the launch of MTV in Europe. So that was a huge, huge deal and super exciting. And I had an amazing job. I was really lucky. Did that for a couple of years. And then I'd gone to Hong Kong to visit family and friends who've lived there, and then ended up moving there because I wanted to travel So I moved to Hong Kong and I opened the South China Morning Post, which is the daily newspaper, looking for a job because I needed money, you know, as you do. And I saw a job advertising a position to go work for a small entertainment agency. So I went for the interview and it was this lovely Swedish man. And he said, well, I bring in nostalgia bands from all over the world to perform for the expat community. Would you be up for doing it? And I said, yeah, of course. So I took the job, loved it. And then after 6 or 7 months, I was the only one in the office because no one else turned up. It was actually just me. And then it just, as I said, it all happened by accident. And some of my clients said, why don't you start your own thing and we'll just work with you because you're on your own. So I did. I started it out of my living room that I shared with my roommate, Sue Brooks, who was an anchor on CNN. And I'll send this to her afterwards. She was a dear friend of mine and still is, American.
Oh my gosh. Oh yes. Anything journalism. Get me on CNN. Get me on anything. I'm all for it.
I launched CNN and Sue was my roommate. And so I started my company from there. And then it just turned into a bigger company. But I was a young entrepreneur. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I just sort of followed my lead and used my brains, which thank God I had some. And I would bring nostalgia bands like the Platters, the Commodores, the 3 Degrees, Mary Wilson of the Supremes, who died this year, sadly. She was an amazing woman. I used to hear lots of stories about Diana Ross. The Commodores came and played with the 3 Degrees for the Macau Grand Prix. That was slightly scandalous. That's another podcast for another day. I've got some good stories.
This will be like a part 1, part 2, part 3 situation with Oberon.
Never a dull moment, which I call many things in my day, as Hannah knows. She's sitting over there nodding and smiling. And that was a lot of fun. As I said, it was all sort of trial and error. There was no plan. I didn't, you know, I just loved what I was doing. It was a lot of fun. And then I went into partnership with a chap called Andrew Bull, who was one of Hong Kong's biggest promoters. I'm still in touch with him. And he did like sort of stadium shows like Janet Jackson, Pet Shop Boys, Kylie Minogue back in the day. And shows like that. And we went into partnership because I was still at the time working out of my kitchen or living room. And he had a proper office and assistant. So it was sort of more grown up for me to go partner with him and have an assistant and an office and do that. And I did that for a couple of years. I was also in a soap opera at the same time, which is another conversation.
Oh, Ding Dong.
Ding Dong is where that came from. So I did 2 jobs at once. I was completely barking mad, but so much fun.
So it sounds like you're someone, I mean, just from all the different even careers you just mentioned, and I don't even know how, like what that span of time was, but someone who's always managing and juggling 800 balls in the air. And it seems like you enjoy doing that.
I do and I don't. I mean, I think I probably, without being diagnosed, have ADD and ADHD, and as my good friend Auntie says, you know, ABC, LMNP, QRS, UVW, XYZ, you know, everything. And so I think when you have a brain that comes up with ideas and thinks quickly, it works really well. But I work hard, and then when I'm home, I love to shut the door and be quiet and listen to music or read and just be super mellow, which I love quiet time by myself.
And you're quite the Instagrammer.
Because it's funny and it makes me laugh. And I try not to be one of those people, because someone posted something today about Instagram. Keith McNally, who's a fantastic restaurateur who has one of the best Instagrams on Instagram. He owns Balthazar and Pastis, and he's just British and very funny and very honest. I think gets him into trouble sometimes, but that's okay.
I think social media gets everyone into trouble a little bit.
Into trouble every second of every day. I'm sure I've gotten into trouble 50 times already at this podcast.
We're gonna bleep out the first 10 minutes.
But I think you know, Instagram's gotten. I think it can be really fun, but I think it's also can make other people feel really awful because they start looking at their own lives and thinking, you know, well, they're having such a great time. And there is that filter that you can probably make your life look ridiculously brilliant and really be in your bathroom and have it look like a yacht. But you're like, no, I'm actually in my bath, not in a yacht. You know, there are ways and tricks people have to make their lives look so much better, which is what it is. But I like it because it's funny and I get to connect with friends and put, you know, funny images up, like ridiculous cakes that I've been finding, and that's sort of like
cakes that you didn't bake.
Cakes I didn't make, but I want to make at some point.
So the reason why I bring up your Instagram is because I absolutely loved, you said in an interview that you will just see a blue sky and you'll post it on your Instagram because that makes me happy. And, there's a beautiful blue sky and someone will ask you, well, why'd you post that? And you're like, because I wanted to, and that makes me happy. And I just was so drawn to why you said that. Cause I think a lot of the reason right now is everyone is all worried about the like filter lifestyle and just like having the perfect photo.
Start having fun and being ridiculous. I always want to be ridiculous. Any excuse to be ridiculous, like count me in. But no, I do, growing up in London, we really didn't have the best weather. I mean, I'm sure you all know that, it's pretty out there that Brits have bad weather and rain and lots of it, and not as much fog as people think. And Sherlock Holmes is not running out behind bushes.
The myth has been debunked, everyone listening.
No, but so when I first came to the States, especially in New York, or California first, then New York, I just realized that the skies are in the most insane blue color. Like a beautiful electric blue. For me, that's like, wow, life's good. If you can wake up and see a blue sky, and it's like, a blue sky is great. It's amazing.
And you say it's like your morning moment, which I think is just such a nice reflection to have.
Just to look up and just to sort of just have a moment, whatever way, shape or form is personal to you. In the crazy life that we've had in the past year alone. Like,
if I wasn't in Chicago, I know we would have been together in person. So eventually I'll come to New York and meet you in person.
We'd love to have you here. We'd love to have any friend of Hannah's.
Oh gosh, well, you don't know. Well, Hannah's about to tell, hopefully she hasn't told you stories about me, because you're going to be like, I don't know if I want her to come, actually. I drive down to the Splits sometimes, Oberon, so we'll see if a New York club can handle this.
Wait, what? But I was going to throw that one in there and just like casually.
I think I can hear Hannah laughing.
You can do the splits.
Honestly, I think I should just retire, but I jump into them. Hannah has to have a video of me at some point doing it, and then you can see it. Do you have a fun party trick? What's yours?
Robotic dancing.
Oh,
robotic dancing. What other party tricks can I do? I can do accents. I can do like accents. I can do a Scottish accent like that. It's great. From Scotland and thought like that.
That was good. What about can you do Chicago? Hannah said when the two of you are in a room together, it's like the Southern accent and then the British accent collide, and it's just too funny.
Is actually
hilarious. I know, she'll say something and then I kind of like will repeat it, but then like the end of my sentence turns into the way that she says the end of her sentence. And
yeah, she started saying bloody hell all the time. I can't stop.
I say lovely. I hope you're having a lovely day.
Oh, she does say lovely.
As I was listening to you a little bit in this one interview, I started saying fantastic. Like to my coworkers, I was like, oh, that's fantastic. And they're like, huh, that's interesting. And I'm like, Oberon says that. You are widely regarded and known as the Queen of Kale. So as the innate trend spotter that you are, what was your gut feeling telling you when you first saw the kale trend emerging in Europe?
I had it as a sort of garnish on a salad, and I was like, this is amazing. What is this? I'm like, it's kale, because it was in France. And I just sort of went on a rabbit hole and started researching it, and then decided that should be a new trend of a vegetable. I came back to New York and I put it on menus in different places in New York and started talking about it to editors, putting it on specials, and made a t-shirt line. I created the American Kale Association. And it was all done as a sort of guerrilla marketing experiment to see if I could pull something off like this. It was never done to make money, and so many people asked me, and I've not made 1 cent, and was never set out to earn money off of it. It was more about testing myself to see if I could promote something and see how it would work. And it did work, but it was more a domino effect. I mean, other people have known about kale. I'd be really arrogant to sit here and say, oh yeah, I single-handedly did it. I mean, I contributed to it, and definitely got the word out there, but it was a grand effort of other people also jumping in. But for me, it was a lot of fun, and I do sort of feel like a bit of a disruptor, and have been, in my work days, or in my career.
Well, and you certainly did. I mean, truly, did you envision that when you were writing kale on chalkboards or just kind of pushing, like you said, the menus? I think one of the fat radish maybe was one of them.
Yes, absolutely.
And you were pushing it like the specials because you had friends there. Did you in that moment envision from those little small ways that it would end up being on Beyonce's sweatshirt in a music video, or, Michelle Obama asking Jimmy Fallon for kale chips?
No, I didn't think it would ever be that significant. I mean, I was doing it, just to see what would happen, but I didn't ever know on that magnitude how big it would get. it's incredible. And it still blows my mind that a vegetable could be so cool and so trendy and so much more.
Well, and also too, you had a lot of clients. You've had a lot of different collaborations, but I'm interested to know, was Kale a needy client to represent? Was he Kale you solely, or was it a Kale yeah moment?
It was definitely a sort of, Kale yeah moment. It was definitely a Kale yeah moment. I try to get involved in things that I'm curious about. And, if it's people, if it's brand, if it's food, if it's art, or it's music, or it's fashion, so I'm always up for a challenge, I suppose.
When you did challenge yourself, and so creating the American Kale Association, you said you kind of created that to also legitimize the trend.
Yeah.
So when you first did that, I'm just kind of curious now, if you're still kind of working in that association, are there any key trends now we should know about, or any new benefits emerging about kale?
Lots of other superfoods coming up that I'm aware of. Kale is still going. I sort of feel I sort of backed off of it a little bit because I feel like it's taken its own course. The American Kale Association is still around. I get lots of emails and letters and questions. And I did an interview with NPR last week talking about kale. And just feels amazing to be part of something great like that. I almost feel like I have imposter syndrome sometimes, and you just feel like, God, I shouldn't, why did that happen? Friends at the time had said, you should set up a coalition or go to Congress and do something with the farmers and get them more money and create a whole business. And that just at the time wasn't really what I wanted to do, because I love discovering things, promoting them and moving on. And I love the change of what I do and not just doing one thing. So for me, it's like the ship has sailed, so to speak. I'll always be, excited to hear about what new kale stories or products are coming out. Last year I was, and the year before, I was promoting wild Alaska pollock, which is the most abundant, sustainable fish in the ocean from Alaska. And I met with Joe Bundren, who's the most lovely man. And he and his family own Trident Seafoods, which is the biggest seafood company in America. And he came to me after reading about the kale campaign and was like, I need you to help me, get the word out. And I worked with him for a couple of years and it was absolutely amazing. So good things have really come out of it. I have met amazing people through people reading my story and getting in contact with me, and just taking me to some really bizarre places, but fantastic. It's a great journey.
And you've coined the term from that campaign, superfish.
I did actually want to try and change the name for wild Alaska pollock because that did happen with Chilean sea bass. It was called dogtooth fish, and they changed the name back in the day. So instead of being in some fancy pants restaurant and them saying, oh, would you like to see dogtooth fish? They now say, sea bass. And say, oh, the sea bass, so much nicer. So I did actually sort of toy around with the idea of changing the name, but that couldn't happen. So I did want to come up with a sort of sub-brand name, and thought, I was thinking, and I thought, superfoods, kale, acai, all those brands. And then I just thought about superfish, because it is superfish.
So simple, but so bold. When I first read that, I was like, oh, superfish. Or even like when you just hear superfood, like you just want to learn more about what that is. Like either if it's benefits you or if it's just like one of the biggest fish in the world. I don't know. But I want to Google it.
Yeah, it's massive. Watch out.
When you are thinking of kind of those terms, are you almost thinking it from are you thinking it for a user? Like, what are they going to want to Google more? How are they going to want to be interested in it more? Like, what are those kind of decision-making processes that you have as the trend?
Well, I figured that superfoods was already happening in such a big way, and it's still, sort of is, I suppose. I don't think the word is really around as it was a couple of years ago, because it sort of veered off into so many different directions of plant-based and, all these other terms now.
I can't keep up.
I'm just, I'm going to start eating dirt soon.
Just teaching everyone, guys, dirt's in.
It's in, it's free, it's there, and just eat it. I'm sure there'll be some health benefits. You heard it here first. If I'd marked that, okay.
Another trend spotter. We got it.
There you go. So straight from the ground. What thought of that? Do you reckon? We thought about that now. Dirt. What do you reckon? I think they'll get to play the dirt for lunch. So
am I at a My Young Auntie collaboration meeting? I feel like tomorrow you're gonna be talking to them about dirt. I'm on the team, I think. So involve me tomorrow's meeting. I'll be there at 9 a.m. Central.
Oh my God, you are hilarious. You're hilarious. I do like the idea of dirt. I wonder if there's any nutrition in it. There must be. Plants grow out of dirt.
And then you could also say like, also, hey, if you're not hungry, just rub some dirt in your cut, rub some dirt in it. Like it has all these skin benefits. It's also an exfoliation
Mud
device.
mask. Hello.
Guys, we're onto something. I'm about to quit podcasting to become another like trend spotter. I think I'm like along.
We're the funniest podcast of all time, don't you think?
Drop the mic. Drop the mic. Pick up the dirt.
Hilarious. That'd be hilarious. We both did it together.
In general, just names of things. So like when you're creating like these different names, you have to have like, I don't want to say an eye for it because it comes from your brain and then comes out into paper, but it comes from your core.
Yeah, I think it's just, you know, if you've grown up in a completely bonkers household like I did, I think it's all comes naturally. I think you just, you know, thinking left and right and up and down as opposed to just, you know, and you've had to be really resourceful at some point in your life, you know, go without and struggle. I think that pushes you in hardships to be as creative as you have to be. Even, you know, back in the day when I was sharing a flat in London with 3 girls and we didn't have any money and we scraped like pennies together to pay our rent or hid from the landlady because I spent my rent money on buying Prince tickets and not paying my rent.
Money well spent.
Money.
Purple rain. Oh God, I don't want to get like sued on like copyright over here. Because then I'll be definitely rubbing 2 pennies together. I cannot afford that one.
You're going to come here and create dirt. So back in the day, you know, literally not having money for rent, hiding behind the curtains to avoid the landlady, and eating, you know, baked potatoes and baked beans for a couple of months, you know, and being resourceful. And when things get bad, good things come out of that. You have to be really resourceful because you're desperate. If you're desperate, you have to think on your feet or you're in trouble. And I think that's a good thing. And I think there were more than one occasion of that happening to me growing up.
You said in an interview that you approach life by following your dad, another nickname, Moggs, advice. There is nothing you can't do in life. So I'm just so curious, living your life in this fearless fashion, what pursuit are you most proud of yourself for pursuing?
Amazed I've gotten to do any of this stuff. I'm so amazed I'm lucky enough to be in these situations I've been in. And, you know, that I started making these dresses for fun. I'm not a designer, but I was in Berkeley, California last year with Scarlett for COVID. And I was driving around and the only shop I saw open was an African shop, fabric shop. And I love anything African and Jamaican. I spent a long time in Jamaica with my little ring there.
I was going to ask you what the lion ring meant. What does that mean?
It's the Lion of Judah. It's a Jamaican Abasi symbol.
Lions are my favorite animals. Yeah, so when I saw you sporting that in all of your photos, I was like, I need to ask her. And of course, okay, here it goes, from Jamaica. So I guess I got to make a trip out there to get that ring.
So I made these dresses. I literally sort of found this fabric, and the woman that owned the fabric shop introduced me to a friend of hers who had a little sewing business, just her and her friend, Miaza and Augustine. And their shop's like as big as this couch, literally in Oakland. And they're just so fantastic. And they made these dresses for me. And it was like one of the most amazing moments I've ever had, just for anyone to be able to, and anyone can do this. So you don't have to be a genius, because trust me, I'm not a genius. I just follow my heart and try to have fun. And if it looks like you can do something, just try to do it. There shouldn't be any holding back on anything in life that anyone wants to do. You just do it. Just try to do it. And if you fail, that's okay. At least you tried, and at least you're having fun, as opposed to not trying anything. And people love them, and people asked me about buying them. So I got more made. I had my friend's 90-year-old mother, Marilyn Good, model them for me, and did a little Instagram page and sold about 10 or 20 of them. And I'm making more for a friend's shop in Marfa, Texas. It's really fun thing to do.
That's so cool. And you just add another thing to your resume. God damn.
I mean, anyone can do this stuff. If you had something you wanted to do, or you've never done it, and I just think, you know, we've all gotten maybe lazy, or, you know, people just get into the routines, or they have hard jobs. But I think it's good to try and do different things you haven't normally done, or push yourself to do things you wouldn't normally do.
Well, that's what I was going to say too. When you said that, it kind of reminded me, like, when you're like, anyone can do this. And I so believe, like, you can't be lazy. Like you said, like, anybody can do it, but like, you have to have the drive and the push to finish
it. And I can be lazy. Trust me. I'm not some maniac that's like, oh my God, I could do this, I could do that. Like the reason I am lazy, I could sit at home and put on music and just kind of, zone out, which I love to do as well. I can be lazy and I like that, but I also love to paint sometimes or whatever it is, just to try to do something different if I'm in the mood. I just think we can do so much more if we want to. If we want to, you have to be in the right mindset and the right headspace to do that. And not everyone is. We all come from different mindsets.
When you were just saying into the camera, do it. Really is true. Just if you have an idea, push it for it and see what happens. Oberon Sinclair says it herself.
Well, my father said it to me. I didn't have an amazing education. I wasn't a huge academic. I'm quite proud to say that, and was actually not so proud in my younger days, because it was all this sort of social sort of movement of like, you have to be the smartest and the brainiest and have the most qualifications. And I just didn't have that brain. I mean, I was good at school and I got okay grades, not brilliant. I may have gotten expelled from one school.
Ooh, Scarlett, don't hear this one.
Did you know that or not? I think I was smoking behind the shed or something awful. I just didn't love it. Didn't love it. Wanted to really work and be out there coming up and using my head and ideas. And that's what makes me happy. And my father said to me at a very young age, you can do anything in life. You can do anything. And if you remember that everyone in the world wears underpants, you'll never be afraid.
Wait, that is so funny. My softball coach when I was younger used to always say, if we were afraid of like the other team, he'd always say, they tie their shoes today. They put on pants today. Like, we're all human.
No one's got any more superpowers. Celebrities, the Queen, everyone has a bed, hopefully, and all wears underpants and all, we have the same. We all come from the same place.
I think that's such a great way to think about things, because you can't be intimidated in a way. Like, just because someone else is doing something too, or they're not, like, you have to just kind of live your life how you want to do it.
No one comes to the table fully secure. And if they do, there's
right.
definitely wrong with them. And I think that's weird. But I think everyone in the world is not secure. Everyone is insecure, all of us. No one's that confident, because you'd be superhuman. And if you really think about that in humanity and life and people and how everyone's trying to hold their own and put up a certain image, you kind of realize that everyone's coming from the same place. And that's a good place to be, and to feel like, well, like we're all in this together.
I have learned so much also, like on these, I just try to be vulnerable in general, because I feel like it's just like, you're all about authenticity too. I know you always say that. So I'm just like, I'm going to be my full self. Like, I've started to share my insecurities, or I've shared like just things I'm not great at. And I hope other people could relate to that, because like, we're not all going to be the best at one thing.
They can relate to you. And if people can relate to you and feel, wow, she could do that, and she wasn't given everything, and she kind of had not such a brilliant start, and it wasn't all great, and it wasn't all fairy lights and fabulous. I didn't grow up in this, I grew up in a extreme, good and not so great background, and I don't want to dive into the not so brilliant parts, but like any childhood, there are good times and bad times, and that's real, and that's real life. It doesn't mean we all have to bare our souls every 5 minutes, because there is stuff that's not great. But I think if you can push forward and not carry that with you forever, and resolve certain things and be like, you know what, not great things happen to me in my life, but that's okay. I'm just going to move forward and live life to the best of my ability, and try to let go of bad things that have happened, because they've happened to everyone.
Oh, for sure. We can all relate in one way or another. Like, kind of like you said, this year, I think has definitely just brought everyone together too. So it's been kind of refreshing to see that. But I am interested, kind of going back to living your life in that fearless fashion. Was there a pursuit that you learned, well, maybe I can't do this, but at least I tried?
My singing career. No, I'm kidding.
Give us a beat.
I mean, wouldn't torture your audience. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I have such a bad memory too. I probably can't remember. I mean, yeah, I've definitely failed at lots of things, but I've enjoyed doing them. I try not to think of things as failures. Maybe relationships. Ooh, no.
Ooh. Oh, are you gonna dive into those? Here we go. Everybody, get out your popcorn.
Short one, let me tell you. No, I've had great ones. I've had really good ones, and if they haven't been good, I've learned from them. Nothing bad to say. It's all good. All good. All good. Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason.
Oh, Oberon, I live by that. To a T. Oh my God, wait, did you just do Pinocchio like you're lying?
No, they're all good. They've all been lovely. They've all been great. I'm kidding.
This episode of the Tailored to You podcast is sponsored by JG Jewelry Shop, a small woman-owned business founded by Jillian Gillespie, my girl right here in Chicago, all because of her passion for jewelry and design. Now, all of her products are handmade, so you're getting that passion wrapped right around your wrist, or if you're a ring or an earring girl, Jillian really has thought of it all. All gold products, and I'm a big gold girl. I like to, I like to have my tan, I like to have my gold jewelry, and I don't want them to tarnish though, but they're all made with gold-filled beads, so they're water resistant and they will not tarnish. This is a huge plus because come on, who wants to take off their jewelry every night when they shower? Or every other? I mean, who's counting? But you don't need to take it off. This is amazing. Her pieces are unique and trendy, and they really will not break the bank. They are perfect for layering and completing any outfit. So go ahead, you know what to do. Go give her a follow at JG Jewelry Shop and start shopping at jgjewelryshop.com. And let's all, be fashionable and layer JG Jewelry Shop together. Am I right? So we kind of talked about your dad, Moggs. You also have said you've attributed your curious mind and interests in music, art, and literature to him. And so you and I really want to talk about curiosity because we definitely vibe on that. Growing up, I used to always, I swear, ask my parents, why is the sky blue? They tell me to do something. I'm like, but what's the purpose for that? I was always asking these questions. And that's why I really want to get into this podcasting platform because
by the way, this is so much fun.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
Amazing. This is so much fun.
Well, I'm having a blast, but that's what I love, just learning about other people. When would I've ever sat down with you and just learn about your life? And so I love to ask questions.
I'm curious about people. I love characters. If you can get fun moments with people. I met this checkout girl the other night, Sarah, who worked at Whole Foods, African-American. Her dad is Jamaican. And she started imitating my voice. And she said, I want to go and live in London. And she's about to be qualified as a nurse in August. And she helped me with some of my grocery bags, get them into a taxi because I had so many vegan products, my daughter. And who's very healthy.
A lot of kale.
A lot of kale. And she helped me with my taxi. We were talking and she was asking about my ring, and her dad was Jamaican and she wants to go to London. She's like, I love the English accent. I love all these shows over there and I want to go to London in August. So I got her number and we're in touch. And, it's just meeting people. People are great. People are great.
And you're so fascinated by people, which is, again, you and I are very same wavelength on that. And you said, you love storytelling and you love to hear people, where they come from, their backstory, why basically. And you said you have friends that are in their 80s. You have you posted Instagram with this little boy, Charlie, my friend Charlie. He's looks like he's 2 in the photo, but it really is so funny. You have friends in every age.
I do actually. I do. I think, younger people should hang out with older people because they're wise and they have great stories and lots of knowledge. And then I think older people should hang out with much younger people, like my mother does. She's like, oh God, darling, I don't want to hang out with anyone old. What do you do? But,
she's like, I like your crew, Oberon.
No,
I like your
better.
network.
I think it's good for the extreme ages to hang out. You learn from each other. Learn all these great stories from older people. I used to learn so much from older people, all these great wives' tales and, dating and all that stuff back in the day.
Once you get to the age too, where you're actually you want to listen to it, now I'm at the age where I will listen to my parents oh yeah, actually that's great advice. But my mom's I told you that when you were 14.
I also for a long time sort of considered Scarlett and her friends my in-house research department. Because anything I would do for work, I would run by them and say, what do you think? They went, oh, that's great. Well, no, that's not great. And so I always had their point of view, always, which is great.
Like a survey, but in your house. You're just taking polls. I did say that
to a client recently because he was asking me some questions. And I said, how old are your children? He was like, 8 and 11. And I said, well, just go home and ask them. There's your research. And he literally went, mate. And I saw him last week and he said, it worked. It was brilliant. They liked it.
Oberon's another mic drop. She's that's all you need. But it's almost you make it so simple, but again,
true,
so
because
bold.
Kids are always honest and they're not going to lie to you. I mean, if these big companies work on products, they have focus groups of all these adults and they spend millions of dollars on them. And then really you've just got a few kids in the kitchen having ice cream and you're like, what do you think of this? They're oh, that's rubbish. Well, that's great. There's your answer.
Well, kind of also other focus groups or people that maybe you would poll or survey whenever you come up with the campaigns. I really want to circle back to the curiosity and some campaigns that I really was drawn to that you did. So one of them, you helped create Jack Spade New York alongside Andy Spade, and you've said that was a curiosity brand because it was a fictitious person behind the brand, Jack Spade. He wasn't real. And I learned this, Oberon. I was like, wait, so he's not like a real person. Like I did not realize that. And so I was like, how cool that they created like this fictitious person
that we made up completely.
That people wanted to almost be like. They wanted to have his clothes. They wanted to, I mean, I assume they wanted to like, what's in Jack's wallet? Who has Jack's wallet? Like that's iconic. Exactly what
we did. Well, that was the brainchild of Andy Spade, who's one of my long-term best friends, and Katie as well, which is sad. But back in, when was it, 98, we created Jack Spade, and that was so much fun. No one had done anything like it, and it didn't feel like work. And he's got a brilliant brain, and one of the best people I know. And it was just 10 years of utter fun doing that.
You lit up when you talked about just even that campaign. And for me, what I thought was so interesting was how you launched Jack Spade, or kind of got it, being talked about in New York with the 100 wallets that you sent to editors. And what a way to kind of grab. So I want to know behind the scenes, like how you all came up with that, because that just seems like gold. Like, okay, we want the editors talking about it, so let's send them Jack Spade's wallet. Who has Jack Spade's wallet?
We come up with Jack, and Andy come up with the name Jack Spade. He was like, I don't want to call it Andy Spade. Jack's cooler as a creative person and persona behind this brand. And then I had to think of a way of launching it, and so we made 100 bifold canvas wallets, and then we went to the flea markets and we found stuff that Jack would have had in his wallet, like casino chips, cutouts of vintage Playboy magazine articles, Dear John letters from the girlfriend saying it's over, beer receipts, dollar bills, band-aids, string, just rubbish that a boy would have in his wallet.
So real quick, how did you guys think that those were again, this is like the fun part. You're coming up with this person. So were you guys like, oh, this seems like Jack? He would have chips
I knew in my life
there.
And friends that we knew that would, like my brother growing up. Most guys do not have like put together wallets unless they're,
Not at all. Or they use like a paper clip.
Most boys would have like, we did a little research. We saw what people had in their wallets. And most men back in the day would have like, stuff scrammed in a bifold canvas wallet and pushed together with like dollar bills, string, just like the stuff in there. So it was like a curiosity shop and seeing what was in there. So it was all sort of pulling up things, and it looked like you'd received someone's wallet, and we put all these things in that Jack would have in his wallet, and then I wrote on a piece of paper, where's Jack, with my phone number, and then wrapped them in New York Observer newspaper and sent them to all the editors, and they called us, or they called my office. They were like, I've got Jack's wallet. Because we put real money in as well, put like a dollar bill in each one. I've got Jack's wallet. And I was like, well, actually.
They all have Jack's wallet.
It was Jack's wallet. And it was, and Andy opened the shop on Green Street, Green and Grand. And we had like friends of his working there and cool people we knew. And we had bookshelves, and we had a record player and vintage photographs of him and his brothers playing and skateboarding, and then like drawers full of stuff like marbles and just rubbish that boys would have, and it was like a really fun shop, and we would serve beers, and whiskey, and do book readings and have music nights, and it was just like really fun and spontaneous. And we did a remote control boat race on the Hudson River with some friends, with Tom Sachs and Casey Neistat, who's now an internet superstar beyond. And it was just like a crew of friends and people around. And we did these events, and because they made us laugh, everything had a slight nod and sense of humor to it.
Well, and it definitely, the campaigns are just so cool. I mean, you've been a part of so many others that we can just touch on quickly. The Honest campaign was another one that you all did with Jack Spade.
No, that was another brilliant brainchild of Andy's. He's just so many. He's one of the most creative people I've ever met in my entire life. And that was just such a wonderful little campaign. And we got my friend Matt Jones to photograph it. It was another Brit. And what we did was we just threw down Jack Spade wallets all over the city with different contents in them. And we did a whole survey. Matt would drop the wallets and then hide somewhere and then photograph people picking them up. And we did a whole survey of who returned them, what neighborhoods, what contents were in them, and we made mini books. And it was just a magical little campaign. It was very sweet.
Well, I feel like the two of you together would just be like idea after idea after idea. So it must have been really fun to collaborate with him, and just how you're speaking of him. What a fun time. And Jack Spade, New York, for anyone who didn't know, fictitious guy. I mean, you've really managed a wide array of clients, from the world of high luxury, art, fashion, food, vegetables, of course, lifestyle, people, I know, from Hermes to Vivienne Westwood, Jack Spade, Converse, 1800 tequila. I'm a tequila girl.
Yep.
Shout out. Givenchy, Free People. I mean, like the list I rattled off, the whole podcast would be about the brands and people you have collaborated with. Curious though, out of it all, why the name My Young Auntie?
Because when I lived in Hong Kong, 85,000 years ago, there was a great kung fu film called My Young Auntie. And when I started my agency in 97, I literally had like 10 minutes to come up with a name. And I didn't want to call it Oberon Sinclair because it was a bit too vain, like, hello, Oberon Sinclair. No, so I thought of the name, and a lot of people were naming their company silly things, like Nasty Little Man was my friend Steve, who had a music PR agency, and he worked with Beck and Radiohead and the Beastie Boys. And then there was Girly Action, another PR agency. And everything had, a lot of people were naming their companies silly names. And then I went with My Young Auntie because I didn't want it to, I don't know why, because it was stupid and silly. And
well, and it kind of goes back to your roots too. Like you kind of did start your career, like going to Hong Kong was one of like your first opportunities. It kind of came full circle for you.
It did. It did actually. You're absolutely right. It did.
You talked about your daughter, Scarlett. She did create Oberon's dream capsule back in the day. And that was her purpose, was to write down all of your wishes on small pieces of paper through the top, and then they would come true. What was a dream you dropped in the capsule that has come true?
Something? It's still on my bedside table, and I haven't opened it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So it's almost going to be like later on in life, you'll know.
When I get home, I'll show you a picture because the top has still got the tiny little slip.
Well, and it's so cute how she created it too, the picture of it.
Because it's still on my bedside table and I haven't opened it.
Oberon's dream capsule.
It's so sweet. That's so sweet. I know.
Where dreams are made of.
I think everyone should have a dream capsule. That's very sweet. No, I still have it on my bedside table. And lots of her things that she's made on my bedside table, like a little heart, a little ceramic heart that's on my lamp, and lots of ceramics that she's made that are just adorable. Yeah, I love them.
I saw that and I was like, that is just the sweetest thing of all time. And so I have to know, with everything you're doing, just
I will remind you of that tonight, because I think we've both seen it so many times on my bedside table and I never move it. It's always there. You're
probably like, have you been in my apartment? Like, are you a stalker? I'm like taking photos of you before you go to bed at night. I'm sure, like we said, any dreams that we had, either it didn't come true or something else did.
I think it's good. I will be ripping that pot open tonight when I get home.
Yes. And please keep me posted.
I will. Well, hopefully you'll be here by next week.
I'm getting a red-eye to New York tonight, so you'll see me bright and early. I take my coffee. No, I'm kidding. I'm like telling you.
Hilarious,
okay.
Anyway.
Oh my gosh. I try. I don't think that other people.
It's like magnificent. This has been so much fun.
Magnificent. You're adding so many new words to my vocabulary. So I just have to thank you for that right now. So Oberon, I know we have a couple of minutes. I asked some of my listeners to submit questions so that the podcast is tailored to them. So we have a couple of questions from our listeners. Stephanie wants to know, do you actually enjoy eating kale?
I do, actually. Not all the time, because I'd be telling fibs if I did. I mean, there are certain times, I did get to a point where I was overeating it. I'm not going to lie about that. I'm being very honest. So Stephanie, there were moments I was like, I need to change this up a bit.
And so Stephanie's my roommate. And there's times where at the end of the week, her and I are both throwing away our lettuce that's looked at us all week like, hey, here I am. And we're like, not you. I'll be eating a block of cheese instead.
Very unhealthy. I love sweets and chocolate.
You have to. All right. So Hannah, who's actually sitting right by you, wanted to know, what is your favorite restaurant in NYC?
Oh, that's a tough one. What's my favorite restaurant? Do you know what my favorite restaurant is? If I tell you all, everyone's going to go there. My favorite restaurant is owned by my dear friends, Ruth and Alan. He's French, he's English. It's one of the best kept secrets in New York, and I'm now going to tell you where it is. You're getting the scoop, because I've never told anyone.
Oh my gosh, breaking news. I love when that happens on the podcast.
My favorite restaurant in New York is called L.A. Ripale, Ripaille, La Ripale. I should be saying it in a French accent, and I can't. It's on Hudson Street in the West Village, and it's the most unassuming place to walk past, but they have outdoor seating, and it's the most authentic French, wonderful restaurant. It's super low key. It's not like anything flashy. It's very, very authentic. The service is wonderful. It's very old school, and it's like you've literally just stepped into Paris or something. But it's been there for like over 20 years, and no one knows about this place. So the secret's out. And there's some very, very unusual, well-known people in there sometimes that you'd be shocked to see. But I think I've just let the cat out the bag, and my neighbors and people in my neighborhood are going to probably, shoot golf balls at them or something.
We don't know who Oberon is dating, but we do know her favorite restaurant. So she did spill the tea in some way. So I'll take it. I like that we have the inside scoop. If anybody wants just some duck confit, we don't want to make the trip. Looks like you're heading over.
It's so lovely in there.
So Abby wants to know, is there a brand that you look back on not so fondly working with?
Oh, let me think. No, there are, but I don't like to. I wouldn't ever say anything negative about anyone. I'm just trying to think a brand that I've worked with not so fondly.
There's always a person behind the brand too.
A person that wasn't nice to someone that worked for me, and I fired them.
You're fired.
Yeah, because I won't say who it was, but they weren't nice to one of my staff, and we've all got to be nice to each other. Not many people though, not many. I've really enjoyed working with lots of people.
So then on the flip to that, she's wondering, which brand have you collaborated with that brings you the best of memories?
Jack Spade.
Jack Spade. We're now going to play Let's Get to Know Oberon Sinclair, maybe a little bit more with some rapid fire, because I feel like we've really gotten to know you. Okay, so Oberon, what is your catchphrase at the moment?
I had two. Never a dull moment and back to bed.
Back to bed. I love never a dull moment, but so when are you using back to bed?
That's when something's just so amazing that's happened. You're like, well, back to bed.
I aspire to have a catchphrase or something where people are like, oh, that's Taylor's thing. I think at the moment, my thing is just like my cackle. So maybe, or like my splits.
You have a few, but they'll come to you and they're just ridiculous. You just have to be a bit ridiculous. You've got the ridiculous thing.
Oh, sure. That is such a compliment. I've never thought that if someone told me I was ridiculous, it'd be a compliment, but coming from you, it truly is. My year has been made. Okay. I don't think
I've said that to anyone before.
I think we're spirit animals.
Compliment. I meant it.
No, and like I took it as a compliment. And so that's why I think you and I are spirit animals, because we both are like, oh, like that was the nicest thing someone could have ever said to me.
No, you are. You're completely ridiculous. I love it. I love where your mind goes.
Oh my gosh. This is so much fun. I just want to talk to you all night. I definitely am coming to New York. Okay, but this one's gonna be fun. Yeah. Kale, Mary, F. Royal Edition. Prince Harry, Prince Williams, Prince Charles. Who are you kailing? Who are you marrying?
Oh, who am I marrying?
And who are you effing? Sometimes I go too far on these.
Is that Prince William, Prince Charles, or Prince Harry? I think all three.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe not. No, I think Harry would be fun. I think Harry's the most fun. Right?
Yeah, I'd pick Harry.
Sorry, yeah. What am I thinking? Yeah, Harry, of course. Yeah.
The next one is, where do you enjoy vacationing?
Well, I love Jamaica. My great friend owns Golden Eye. That's a beautiful hotel in Jamaica. I love California these days, Northern California. Europe, anywhere. I don't know. I'm just exploring anywhere. I could even go on a hike or a road trip upstate.
Well, come to Chicago and visit me. I think that's your next trip.
I would love to. I would love to do that.
This next one is, you've said that status doesn't matter to you. Financial status, if someone's famous. However, Oberon, you do run in a pretty cool social circle network. It's really giving me my pop culture fix. So who is the most famous person you've ended up in a room with?
Who's most famous? Maybe the Queen, Lou Reed in my kitchen back in the day.
In your kitchen?
Back in the day, yeah. Having dinner at my house back in the day, yeah. I'm trying to think. There've been quite a few. My ex-husband introduced myself and Kate Spade back in the day. I was pregnant and Katie came with me to see my ex-husband perform for the 9/11 concert. And he introduced us to Harrison Ford and Richard Gere at the same time. One fell over backwards and she almost fell over forwards. And it was a pretty great moment for us. I'm not gonna lie.
That is wild. Honestly, I cannot even believe Richard Gere is one of my all-time faves. I think he's so handsome, such a silver fox. So then your ex-husband, did he perform? Well, so he collaborated with The Who and Pink Floyd.
Yes,
So you probably have been to some pretty legendary sets and performances.
I have. Yeah, very much. Yes, I
A
have.
rocker wife.
Never done it.
What is a typical day for Oberon Sinclair?
Waking up early, making my espresso on my stovetop, going for a run or working out, making calls from home sometimes in the morning, getting ready, coming to the office, working with Hannah, meetings. I mean, it's none of a real day. I mean, nothing's ever typical.
You're not hanging out with Richard Gere every night.
Actually, no, aren't we? We're meeting him in about.
I know Hannah's texting me, excuse me, Lady Gaga's meeting us at dinner. I gotta go. Wrap up this interview.
He's met some pretty good people recently. Not gonna say who, but
I'll be getting the intel hopefully shortly, or we can all follow you. So speaking of, thank you so much for taking the time, Oberon. Where can everybody kind of keep up with, My Young Auntie, with you? Where should everyone follow you all on social media?
gosh, God bless them if they want to. It's so sweet. My Young Auntie, Oberon Sinclair, Instagram, our website, or, looking up in the sky,
Yeah, if anyone sees a cake that Oberon didn't bake, throw her a like and throw her a follow.
Thank you. It's been so lovely. Thank you for having me on your show. You're so lovely. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The dream capsule, I'm literally going to go home tonight and look at that and be like, rip the top open. That was pretty impressed beyond. You're really
Well,
good.
thank you.
Really
The dream
good.
capsule. Well, I'm going to make my own dream capsule. So you're lucky that you had someone do it for you, but now I'm just going to go make my own.
So much. I really want friends of mine to do your podcast. This is really fun.
That would mean so much to me. Wow. Thank you.
You're wonderful. Thank you so, so much. It's just been so much fun. Thank you. Absolutely stay in touch.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Tailored to You podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google, Stitcher, Spotify. Leave us a rating and review, and follow on Instagram and Facebook at T2U Podcast. And I really do encourage you to make this podcast tailored to you. So go ahead and visit T2Upodcast.com and submit questions you might have for me, for the guests, types of guests you want to see on, possibly you. Send it in. Topics of interest, really anything you want. And let's keep talking on Tuesdays.